And it was really interesting how food and mood can affect you, and that I found really positive and really uplifting, was that food and mood can be linked, and that we should be able to improve our mood just by the food that we're eating. So that's great. I've just realized there was no sound on YouTube for a bit because I didn't turn up my mic. So hopefully there's sound there now, and people on YouTube can hear it. This is it. This is technology at its best. And what I did find interesting talking about nutrition with Nicole was that understanding that we just need to balance it out. We need everything in moderation. So don't beat yourself up if you have the odd occasional snack that you maybe shouldn't have. Be kinder to yourself, and don't beat yourself up. And as long as we're doing it in moderation, then that's okay. And just a full range of color on your plate is another thing that Nicole shared with me, which I thought was very useful. So, and then I went through a bit of a period, I'll be honest with you, because I was supposed to do an episode on self-esteem, and that made me anxious. That made me struggle with what I'm going through. And I didn't really understand that I was struggling with it still so much as I am. And I didn't even, when talking about it to some friends of mine, I didn't realize that it was that bad even now. You know what I mean? So like I was really struggling with, how am I going to record an episode about self-esteem when I have no self-esteem and I'm not able to, I would feel like such a fraud. I mean, I feel like a fraud sometimes doing the podcast anyway, and trying to do this, I feel like a bit of a fraud. But it was the hardest episode I've ever tried to record, and I tried several times, and I just couldn't do it. And I learned a lot about myself then, in that moment, that there's certain things that you're not going to be able to do, and you're not going to be feeling comfortable to do. And that was one of them. That was definitely one of them. And I learned a lot about myself, and I needed to admit, not failure, but I needed to admit that it was outside of what I could manage or what I could do. So So I took a strong side step to the left, and then another one to the right, and avoided that episode on self-esteem, and then went on to do the episode about stress. And that was during Stress Awareness Week, I think it was. So we recorded that one and shared that one during Stress Awareness Week. And again, that was good because it reinforced some of the stuff we'd learned about anxiety, especially about what's in your control, what's in your gift, and being able to focus on those things that you can change, rather than trying to focus on things that are outside of your control and aren't within your remit to actually change. And the other thing with stress was about managing it, and we looked a little bit into mindfulness and giving yourself those times away from whatever you're trying to do, and do things that bring you joy, and find those things that do bring you joy. For the longest time, I felt guilty about the fact that I'm a 35-year-old going on 36-year-old man who still so much enjoys video games and playing video games, and not even the cool ones, not even like, I don't know, like your shooter upper games. I'm not necessarily one of those players. I'm a city builder, strategic simulation type game player, and for the longest time I felt guilty about being that guy. But you know what? That's what brings me joy. I don't go out. I don't do drinking in vast amounts, not anymore at least. Don't do any sort of recreational drugs or anything. So why? The one thing that does bring me joy is gaming. So why not allow myself to do that? And obviously, my dog Captain brings me joy. So it's really just about what brings you joy, and make sure that you enjoy those things and you give yourself those times to do that. And self-care Sundays were a very trendy thing, I think, before COVID, and then COVID came, and then every day was self-care day. But maybe something to look at doing when the world starts opening up a bit more and we start going back to whatever normal is going to be. And remember to do those self-care Sundays. So stress was a good one to go through. And then we talked about mental health in the workplace, where I think I'm finding a new passion in that I'm seeing the ability to be able to help people and actually make a difference to the people that I'm working with a little bit more, through just simple things like talking about mental health and encouraging them to talk about mental health. So yeah, the mental health in the workplace is moving forward leaps and bounds, and things like mental health first aiders and all that sort of good stuff. That's wonderful. It is so wonderful to see these people in the business putting their hands up and saying, I want to help other people. And for me, that's a game changer in what we are able to do. So really would like to just say that whatever you're doing in your workplace, I mean, I think a lot of you probably work with me, to be fair, a few of you don't, but I mean, whatever you're doing in your workplace, just keep doing it. As long as we're having open and honest conversations about mental health and well-being and looking after each other, and we're talking about mental health as much as we're talking about physical health, then we're doing the right thing and we're moving in the right direction. Getting the right people to help and to set policies and procedures is going to be the difficult things, because it is a challenging environment to be in, and it's a challenging position to say we're going to have a policy where people can take personal days or well-being days or whatever, and it's not going to have to come out of their annual leave, and we're going to approach that like we do with sick leave. Or that will be when this industry or this country is changing, and we're able to do that a little bit more comfortably and not feel ashamed for having to take a day off because of our mental health as well as our physical health. So really positive conversation I had there, workplace, mental health in the workplace. And then I got to speak to Andrew Boyd, and that was a great conversation. I mean, we actually recorded that before any of the episodes of the season came out, and we recorded it, and it was such a chilled conversation, and I forgot that we were recording at one point, and we were just having a very nice, open and honest conversation, which is what I really wanted to achieve. And that's what I've managed to do actually with all three of the guests in this season of Evan Talks. And it was actually a pleasure to have that as the second to last episode. And I thought, well, after such a positive episode, maybe we should try and do something a little bit differently this time. So that was all the episodes that we've recorded. I've got a couple of questions that have popped up, so I'll have a stab at answering some of them before I talk about what's next for Evan Talk. So good old parents have asked a question. Thank you very much. And it's good to know that my dog Captain is sitting watching me on TV, which is great. He's probably very confused. So has the podcast helped your own mental health? That was the question. It's helped me understand my mental health a little bit better. It's helped me understand my triggers, which we kind of know is obviously self-esteem and certain social situations, which for the longest time I was one of these people that thought I didn't have triggers. But then I always secretly knew that certain things can happen and then I'll be low. Let it be a relationship breakdown, let it be something negative happen at work, anything like that. I knew that I would have a low episode, if not a proper full-on sort of breakdown or period of time off work because of it. So I suppose that's helped me in my mental health, because also I've recognized a little bit better when things aren't heading in the right direction. And that's the key thing, is understanding when things aren't heading in the right direction, what are you going to do to get yourself out of that situation before it becomes too bad? There's certain things that I know, like when I'm heading in the wrong direction, I really start struggling with my sleep more. The medication that I take doesn't help, and I get a lot more nervous in situations that I wouldn't be nervous in normally. So simple things like driving would start to make me a bit more nervous, and I'd be thinking about worst case scenario. If I crashed, what would happen? All that sort of thing. So those are things that I've never really acknowledged as early warning signs. But now that I know my triggers, I can see those early warning signs kind of taking effect, and then changing what I'm doing. So yeah, I guess that would be the positive thing I've taken out of Evan Talks. The other question I had was from Dave, and he said, what was my favorite part of Evan Talks? And I'm assuming it's episode season 2. And I guess it's always going to be the guests. Always enjoy having guests and talking to guests, learning from the process of having to think about what questions are going to, what kind of questions we're going to have, what talking points we're going to cover, looking at what we can sort of try and pull out from the conversation, which I thoroughly enjoy doing. I really do. Been doing a lot of, I did a couple of interviews, not a lot. I did a couple of interviews through work as well, which I thoroughly enjoyed. And people are joking that the BBC is calling, but if they called, I would definitely answer, because I really enjoyed the process of having interviews and talking to people and learning from them. I think that's the other thing, is after all of these conversations that I have with people like Dave, people like Brady, people like Nicole, and even the guests from the first season, like Ken and James, and all of the guys that we spoke to in the first season of Evan Talks, I've learned something. I've taken something away from that. It might be something that's personal, or it could be something that I've changed about the way that we do the interviews or the podcast. So every time I'm looking at something differently, which I thoroughly enjoyed that part of it. Really enjoyed all the interviews, all the guests, not interviews, but all the guests that we had on the season of Evan Talks. And it's a pity, there was a couple more people that had reached out to me, and I really wanted to get them on, and then I couldn't make it happen. So hopefully one day the situation will allow, and I'll be able to make that happen. And yeah, that would be great, wouldn't it? And then the other question I got sent in was, is there a season 3? Because I keep talking about, I don't know if there's going to be a season 3, and I keep playing with the idea. The thing is, the time, the mental impact on me, it is draining, but I do know the benefits far outweigh that. I've had over 2,800 people listen in on the podcast. So creeping up to 3,000. So I mean, if they only listen to one episode and they only take away one thing and it helps them once, then I mean, I've done far more than I ever anticipated doing. I know a lot of you are regular listeners, and I appreciate you all. So thank you. But I don't know at this stage. I would like to say that there is going to be a season 3, and that might be the last one, because I really want to get some other guests involved, and I really want to kind of speak to some more people and grow the knowledge that I've got, or expand on my knowledge that I've got now, and help other people. That's the key thing, and that's why we started doing this, wasn't it? So we could make a difference. And like I said, if it made a difference to one person who's listened to one episode, then that's enough for me. That's more than enough for me. So if it was to finish here, I'm glad that I've got you guys watching, all of you guys watching, and we're doing this together for the last episode. But at the same time, I'm pretty keen to see what happens next year. If it does happen next year, it will be in the beginning of the year, probably in January. Do the same sort of thing, do January, and then kind of take it through and try and do the 10 episodes next year, which would be great if that's it. That's all the questions I've had so far. So if anyone's got any others, then that would be great, because it would be great to hear them. I've just seen that my brother-in-law in South Africa is watching, which is great. Thank you, Warren, for watching. You should definitely be out on the town. I'm sure it's your birthday week this week. Yeah, and we've done well this season. We've done really well, and despite my little break in the middle of in the middle of the season, where I struggled a little bit, I did have a difficult few weeks this year, and it's always difficult to understand what I can do next, and understand why it's still happening. I suppose that's the thing. I mean, I thought I would be trying to I thought I'd be better at managing my depression and my anxiety at this point in my life, because I mean, like I said, it's been since I was 14. But the realization is that realistically, it's not going to go away. It's just managing it better. And I suppose if I look at some of the stuff that we've been through in the last 2 years, it does maybe think that if I went through that when I was younger or newer to the depression and all that sort of stuff, if I would have made it through it, and if I would have made it through it as well as I did. So I guess that's probably one thing I've kind of thought about a lot since doing the start of this episode or this season of Evan Talks, is that this is what you guys miss when I'm recording them, like when I'm not recording them live, because I do a lot of this thinking and then editing at the end. So welcome to my world. But yeah, it's difficult to visualize that my life is going to carry on going like this. Like you're going to have those bad days and those good days, and you're going to have those bad spells, and those could be longer and they could be harder. And you're just thinking, it's difficult to understand when it's going to get easier, if it's going to get easier. And it does get easier, I suppose, a little bit, but sometimes it just takes one thing to knock you all the way back down to the beginning. And it's thinking of those times that kind of scares me a little bit, to be honest with you. So yeah, that's the one thing that I struggled with halfway through the recording of these. And that was part of the time when I was trying to do the self-esteem episode, and it was really, really challenging. Then I've got another. Oh, thanks, Rack. Thank you. Sorry, I'm just reading. Yeah. Well, if I'm helping one person, then I've done the job. So thank you, Rack, for that. That's great. That was a great comment or note on Instagram. And then I've had another one. It's come through from Anastasia or Anna. Hi, Anna. How can you help someone that doesn't seem to want help? Oof. It's one of those things where I'm really just an advocate for just consistently being there. It sometimes does get harder. It sometimes does get hard to carry on supporting them and supporting them through all the stuff that they're going through. And if they're not carrying on, or if they're not taking any advice on board, then it is difficult. I suppose being there to listen is the main thing. One thing that I've learned is active listening and just letting people offload a little bit is the biggest difference. I know that when I'm going through a bit of a difficult time, I don't really want all the answers. I don't really want all of the solutions. I just really want somebody to listen. And if they can listen and take on board, then that kind of takes some of that weight off my shoulders. So they might not be listening to your advice, but I'm sure that you're being there for them is helping regardless. And just knowing that you are there to support them does help. So I don't think you can make somebody get help at all, because it's one of those things where they need to be in the right frame of mind to be able to help themselves. Not comparing it to any sort of like alcoholism or drug abuse or anything like that, but I would say it's very similar to that situation. You can be there for them, support them, but they've ultimately got to make the decision to help themselves. So that would definitely be my my advice there, is just continue to be there, to listen, to support them, and maybe don't take it on yourself if they're not getting the help that they need, because like I said, they need to ultimately help themselves. So we got some more questions coming through. Oh, my niece is in South Africa. So the question was from Warren was, how do I feel about being away from my nieces? I think I can speak for the entire family that are in the UK and the family that are in South Africa. We miss them all. We miss them all very much, and we wish we were there. I tell you, do wish we were there just for that, just for them, just for those two beautiful girls. That's it. We've got no more questions coming through, and we're close on 29 minutes. So what I am just going to say is, you guys are awesome. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for joining in. And for the people that were watching on YouTube that didn't have any sound for a good 5-10 minutes, thank you for sticking in there, because that was good. That was good. So, like I said, not sure what's going to happen, if there's going to be a season 3 of Evan Talks, but really, really thank you for all your support. Thank you for carrying on listening. I will do my best to make season 3 happen. And just even if it's for the 10 people that are now watching and the few people that are going to listen later, just thank you so much. I will do my best, and you guys are amazing. And most importantly, just remember to look after yourself, look after each other, and just be kind. And let's not forget all the good things that we learned during the period of lockdown about looking after ourselves and our mental health and the mental health of those people around us. So thank you all for joining me. I'm now going to try and disconnect from all of the streams at once, and that's going to be very challenging. Look after yourselves, look after each other. Goodbye.